he is. Good nap, Skipper?
Yeah, I certainly needed it for sure. Course, vector, and our current ETA, please, Jim.
Roger, Skip. Currently on vector southwest at 22.9er, altitude of 22,000 and holding steady. At current speed, arriving at Edinburgh International in 48 minutes.
Very good. Edinburgh International, this is flight SLK 024 Heavy. Current course is steady at a vector of 229 southeast from your 20. Requesting instructions for approach. Receive. Edinburgh International, this is flight SLK 024 Heavy. We are now 46 minutes out from your location, requesting instructions for our approach. Receive. Edinburgh International, this is flight SLK 024 Heavy. We are now 46 minutes out from your location, requesting instructions for our approach. Receive.
Everything okay, Skipper?
I'm not getting any comms back from Edinburgh International, nothing at all.
Oh, I'll try them on their emergency frequency.
Yeah, do that. Oh, and Jim, also check for any air traffic near us or other radio chatter. If the tower is down, we are going to have to keep our eyes wide open from here on out.
Amen to that. Edinburgh International, this is flight SLK 024 Heavy. We are now 43 minutes out from your location, requesting instructions for our approach. Receive. Edinburgh International, this is flight SLK 024 Heavy. We are now 43 minutes out from your location, requesting instructions for our approach. Please respond. Copy.
Flight SLK 024 Heavy. This is Edinburgh International Flight Control. We are declaring an emergency. Do not land. I repeat, do not land. We are declaring an emergency. Over.
Edinburgh International, please say again. Confirm your status. Hey, Skipper, I think you better listen in.
Roger that.
Edinburgh International, please say again. Confirm your status.
We have been overrun by zombies. I shit you not. Do not land. I repeat, do not land. We are declaring an emergency. Over.
Well, that's something I wasn't expecting. Edinburgh International, this is pilot in command of SLK 024 Heavy. Not landing and diverting for us is absolutely not an option. We do not have the fuel. Please advise us of your current status. Receive.
We have been overrun by zombies. I repeat, we have been overrun by zombies. Over.
Edinburgh International, this is flight SLK 024 Heavy. I need your exact status. I also need you to stay calm. Receive.
We are barricaded in the tower. There are only 4 control staff left, and currently 9 children here also, and 3 teachers accompanying them. A very bad day for a school. Over.
Edinburgh International, this is flight SLK 024 Heavy. Received and understood. Stand by. I repeat, stand by.
What do you think, Skip?
Here's the thing, because we made that non-refueling diversion into Dublin, we are at just 12% of our fuel capacity. We either ditch as softly as we can on the water, or
what, Skipper?
Or we land at Edinburgh.
Let me get this straight. The choices are A, a water landing, or B, a runway landing currently that is becoming overrun with the ungrateful dead.
Yup, that's about sums it up. Oh, not forgetting the whole rescuing part of that option.
Ah, right. There is that also.
Do we have the appropriate equipment stowed on board?
Yes, sir, we do. Standard zombie apocalypse equipment stowed in cargo hold 1.
Right under our feet. Good. What's the basics on the manifest content?
Okay. Let's see here. Okay. Got it. Here it is. Ready?
Go ahead.
We got 7 sets of full body armor, same amount of sidearms with 100 rounds of hollow point ammunition for each. Oh, and 7 tomahawks.
Tripwires?
Yes, sir.
Great. Zombies hate tripwires. I wonder why nobody else uses them. That all?
Apart from some basic meds and comms, that's about it.
Okay, I think we're pretty much decided. So, we land at Edinburgh in approximately 27 minutes. Our objectives were clear. We need to rescue those people, refuel at the same time, and then get the hell out of Dodge. What's the worst that could happen?
What's the worst that could happen? Do you know the most difficult thing that we're going to have to deal with down there, Captain?
I can think of a few things, but what's on your mind, Jim?
The most difficult thing will be trying to pretend not being too excited.
Roger that. Right, we are now 18 minutes from our final approach. Let the other crew members know what's going on, please, Jim. Have Sasha and 2 others suit up and be ready to do whatever it takes to refuel this plane. Oh, and tell Sasha to make the appropriate announcement.
Will do.
Main cabin, Sasha speaking.
Hey, Sasha, we have a situation. Captain needs the passengers to buckle up and bring their shutters closed and stay put. Bottom line, Sasha, is that Edinburgh International is now the subject of a zombie outbreak. Added to what we desperately need in fuel, the tower control is currently under attack and we need to get them out and back to the plane. I need you and 2 of your hostesses to refuel this plane and secure the area whilst we go get them. Copy?
Yes. Yes, understood, Jim. We got this. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We will shortly be landing at Edinburgh International. Please ensure your seatbelts are fastened and trays are in an upright position. Due to a situation, there will be no disembarkation. I repeat, no disembarkation. All passengers must remain seated and all window blinds drawn down. Thank you. Attention, this is a crew announcement. Flight attendants, Susan and Alina meet me in Cargo Bay 1 immediately.
Okay, done.
Edinburgh International, this is flight SLK 024 Heavy. We need a clear runway and a vector for our approach. Be advised, upon landing, we will attempt to rescue. So be ready. Received?
Our only runway free is all this chaos is Northern 04. I say again, our Northern runway 04 is clear for your approach. Fuel bowsers are located close by, but what awaits your arrival is not good. Begin your approach when ready. On heading of 1180 from your current vector. Good luck and thank you. Over.
If we pull this off, listeners and subscribers should increase massively for this podcast, Jim.
Amen to that.
Right then, let's get the ball rolling on this one. Altering our course to 1180. And now beginning our descent. 5,000 feet. $2,000 feet.
Runway now in sight. Lowering landing gear. Locked. Confirmed?
And locked. Yes, confirmed.
Looking good for our final approach. Flaps down.
Roger that. Flaps down.
Wait a minute. Is that a time bubble?
Too late. No time. Hold on. Here we go.
You have tuned in for a Slick Podcast. I'm here to seek the truth. Live from Scotland around the UK. The one and only Slick Podcast. Enjoy the show. Can I ask important questions? No matter how bizarre the truth might be. Tune in for Slick Podcast. Keeping it real, keeping it groovy.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, or a very good day to you when and wherever you're listening from. And a very warm welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Simon Laurie King. Coming up on today's show, we will be discussing and trying to make sense of a possible close-up and personal, blatant revealing of a demonic or otherworldly entity to my guest here on today's show. Today's guest is known on TikTok as Chip Drachenfels. Rather than me trying to describe Chip's video testament from yesterday, take a listen to Chip describing his initial encounter, an encounter that clearly left him shaken and greatly confused as to what he'd seen. So then, here's that sound clip.
So, as I do every week, twice a week, I make deliveries to the same guy. I've been doing it for 7 months. And it's the same guy every time I walk in. He's got a big garage with like a couple trucks in it. I walk in, I hand him his parts, we talk for a minute, I walk away. I go on my business. Today, I walked in, and he had his back to me, and he was working on his bench, and he must have heard me coming. I don't know, because I was actually pretty quiet, I thought, but when he turned around, I jumped and kind of grabbed my mouth like that because I didn't know what to think. And he laughed a little bit, and he called me jumpy. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm just not feeling very good. And I handed him his part, and I was like, hey, I gotta go. The reason I reacted that way is because when I looked at him, he was different. He didn't look like the same guy I saw every other time. First thing I saw was he had no color in his eyes. They were completely black. Like you couldn't even see reflections. It was just a black mass. And for some reason his ears were kind of weird, and they had like this little point like that. I don't know what that was. Excuse me. But then I was talking to my friend, and he sent me an article about them saying that a new disorder that's coming out where people are starting to see demon faces.
So, as you may have gathered, this is a story of the utmost interest, and thus myself and the rest of the crew here at the SLK podcast are therefore obliged to take a further look into this. And also, as a personal observation, taking into account the strangeness of the world lately, or should I rephrase that, the last few years of bizarre and high strangeness sprinkled with generous amounts of fuckery goes a long way for me on this particular episode to not being surprised at such a thing. Very concerned? Yes. Surprised? No. So without further delay, it's my absolute pleasure to welcome Chip to the show.
Thank you.
Let's get the ball rolling on this one. Before we talk about your disturbing experience, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind.
Sure. I live in Minnesota, U.S. I work full-time as a delivery driver. I deliver truck parts. I currently live with my wife and my children in a hotel. We're kind of homeless at the moment, but things are going to get better, hopefully. I'm 39. I have 4 kids. I don't know too much about anything, so.
That's fine. So your current situation, you're living in a hotel, and you've lived in your car, and you're with your wife at the moment, and children currently. I've played the sound clip from your TikTok video that you uploaded describing your encounter on the intro before our interview of this episode. If you wouldn't mind, could you relate your experience here to us now?
Sure. So I'm delivering truck parts. I pull up to a garage like normal. He owns a big company. There's dump trucks and excavators and stuff out there. I do believe he's the owner of that company. And I have conversations with him all the time. When I hand him parts, I see him twice a week usually. Not today, but last Thursday I went in there, and he was facing his tool bench, and I'm assuming he was cleaning tools or something with tools. I was pretty quiet when I walked up behind him, and I don't know how he heard me, but he kind of turned around real quick. And when he turned around, I couldn't believe that he didn't look the same, to the point where I jumped back. I grasped, and grabbed my mouth, and he asked if I was jumpy. And I had to lie to him and say that I just wasn't feeling good and I had to leave. But when I saw his face, and the reason I jumped is his eyes were pure black. His ears were like deformed, and they had little points on them that kind of stuck out a little bit. And his eyes were so black that I couldn't even see reflections or any kind of light in them. And he didn't change back to normal. I wasn't there long enough, so I kind of I saw what I saw, said I wasn't feeling good, and I apologized to him, and I walked away. And he still looked like that as I was walking out the door. It was quite terrifying, to be honest.
Did he try and call you back or anything?
No, he giggled and was like, "All right, man, well, we'll see you next week." And that was pretty much it.
So are you due to go and see him again this week?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm scheduled to see him for Tuesday and Thursday, I believe.
Okay, then. So I'll ask the question. Obviously, you're a delivery driver. You're a husband and a father. And I know for a fact you do your best. So drugs isn't an issue here. Medication isn't an issue here. Okay. So what is it initially that you thought you saw? Because some people, if we see something out the corner of our eye, we can usually question it. Oh, it was that, or no, it's not that. But when something as blatant as that happens, what was your initial, apart from what the hell, what was your initial thoughts on that? So you're back at your truck and you're probably shaken up. What did you think?
I'm actually thought, for a minute there, I thought I was dreaming. So, I mean, I pinched myself twice sitting in my delivery van before, like, I drove halfway, like 2 miles down the road before I even actually took it all in. And I started texting my wife and my buddy. And I was like, I just saw this. What do you think? It scared the crap out of me, to be honest. Like, I get really shaky when I think about it now. And the gut feeling I had when I was standing in front of that man, it felt like I got punched in the gut. And I had really nasty, like, taste in my mouth that didn't go away until after I walked out of his garage. But, I mean, I didn't know what to think. Even now, I don't know, like, was he a demon or was he a shapeshifter? I have no idea. But I know what I saw was real, and I wasn't on anything. I don't drink. I saw what I saw, Yeah,
there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about that. Your friend sent you a link to a page or a document that made you aware of this is actually becoming a thing. Can you expand on that as well, please, Chip?
Yes. So basically, I texted my wife first. She didn't know what to think, so I texted my friend. And I told him about it, and he ended up sending me an article for something called demon face syndrome, which I have never heard of. And I guess to me it doesn't make sense because I'm kind of tired of them putting out things that just doesn't make sense to them. I don't think it's a syndrome. I think if you see something like that, I mean, obviously people see things when they're on drugs and stuff, but if you're clear-minded enough to see something like that, I'm leaning more towards it was probably God showing me. That's pretty much all I could think of. It's I don't know how else to put it.
Because this is something that is completely out of the ordinary, and this is your during the day, very mundane. You may enjoy your job, but very mundane. And then suddenly you're confronted with this thing. Now, my personal views are that demons do walk amongst us. The way of the world, whether you take child trafficking or an incessant war, I personally think that demons do
walk amongst us. Now, there are a few videos on the internet where you have black-eyed children. I'm not calling those children demonic at all, but as far as I'm concerned, there are such things. Now, are you a religious man? That is to say, a man of faith. I pretty much know the answer to this, but, and if you are, how do you see your encounter through that, let's say, faith? And does it affirm and reinforce it, or alternatively, shatter it completely? Talk to me about that.
I am very religious. I'm now more than ever since last Thursday. Mainly because it confirmed the fact that there's more to this life than what meets the eye. And I mean, I still kind of get teary-eyed when I think about it because, you know, when you're homeless and you're looking around for things to change and nothing's happening, and then that happens, it's telling me that God is seeing me, if that makes sense.
100%. Yes, it does.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at right now. It confirmed my belief and it made me believe even more.
Did you tell your fellow co-workers about this? I mean, it must be something that would concern you, not just the experience, but relating that back to during that mundane, the day, just the ordinary. It must concern you thinking, do I tell people? Do I not? Obviously your best friend, your wife, and I don't think you would have told your children, but did you tell your co-workers? Because working as I do with other guys, I could think of nothing but, no one taking it serious, just ridiculing me. And I couldn't, unless I took them to that experience, show them how sincere and concerned I was. So how did that work out?
I actually have not said anything to my coworkers or my boss. I was afraid that, like you said, like they were going to ridicule me and make fun of me. And like being homeless, I don't want to lose my job. It's the only thing I have right now. With my wife she's mentally disabled, so she can't work. And that's what makes it rough, is that I lose this job, I'm in a lot of trouble. So I was afraid to say anything, and I still am.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Could I ask, sure, say no, but you guys must have had a home at one time. So am I guessing you've lost your job and everything just, house of cards fell apart?
Well, basically, my life, I've had problems with, I have ADHD, if you know what that is.
Yes.
And so I was really bad at holding a job because my thoughts would start kind of wandering and I'd be like, I don't like this job anymore. So I'd just leave. And it was like that since a kid all the way up until I hit like 30 before I started actually looking into ADHD. And I finally got taken care of with that. And I was able to go back to work about a year ago. And so I started working at this place. And so basically we lost our house because my wife was supposed to turn in some paperwork, but she got into a depression state where she wasn't paying attention to anything and she wasn't talking to me about anything. And she completely blew off all the paperwork. So they ended up closing our case. And we had, it's called Section 8. It's like housing where they pay for your house. We ended up losing that. And because of that, I couldn't afford $1,900 a month for a little house anymore, plus all the utilities, and I just couldn't do it. And we ended up getting evicted, and we're just hoping for something smaller now and some little more easily manageable, if you know.
Yeah, 100%, definitely. So have you heard of a guy he's a British guy called David Icke? He used to be a footballer, a soccer player, as you guys would say, and he's an author. Have you heard of him?
I want to say I have heard his name. I don't know exactly what he has done, but I have heard his name before.
Well, David Icke has been on this show early on, and I wish that episode had been better in its quality, and I had more experience in interviewing people. I think I was massively starstruck, and my sound could have been way better. But bottom line, David Icke has been telling society about shape-shifting entities amongst us for at least a couple of decades. Do you think that your encounter is an example of this, and let's say a spiritual experience? Do you think if somebody had been standing beside you, they would have seen the same thing again, maybe? Probably an unfair question, but, trying to unwrap this. What do you think about that?
I could say, I don't know, like there's other people that were in that garage with him, and I guess nobody was really looking at him. I could see other people that being able to see it, but at the same time, like the shapeshifter thing, I can totally see that because I do believe in shapeshifter. I believe that anything's possible in this world. It is. Anything is possible. And that, I mean, I personally am hoping that I got to see it because I got that from God and he wants me to see it. But as far as I don't know if anybody could have seen other than me. That's kind of a hard question.
Okay, then. So let's put it another way. As far as an affliction goes, that means you would have got something else on top of all the difficulties that you're obviously experiencing. But as far as an affliction goes, you don't think it's that?
No, I don't. Not even a little bit.
No, not at all. I would say that this is something else. And how are you going to approach this when you go and see the guy again? How are you going to approach this? Obviously carefully, but have you got some sort of plan what you're going to be doing, or are you going to try? Well, I suppose you can't avoid the place. If it's your job, right?
Right. And that's a great question because I've been thinking about that myself. I get a lot of comments on my TikTok where they're like, hey, what are you going to do when you go back? And I'm probably just going to try to pretend like I didn't see anything and hope he didn't see my video and kind of go from there. If he doesn't say anything to me, great. But if he does, but I'm the only driver for that area. So like, I have to go back. No doubt about it.
I suppose being a man of faith, being a man of religion, then probably that's your best weapon. If he would suddenly say something like, oh, you saw me, then I suppose your best defense would be, yeah. So you obviously know who I am and my beliefs. So where do we go from here? I know it sounds a bit dramatic, right? But if that's your only defense, if you have to go back, then that's probably just a silly scenario. But you always have that to fall back on, your faith, as it were.
Right. Carry the God of armor with me. That's what I'm going to do.
That's the best way. When you see him, obviously, and if he doesn't say anything, then yeah, it's just another day. Here you go, sign here, ta-da. So what about the your followers on TikTok? Are the comments positive? Is anybody else saying, yes, I've had a similar experience? Or what's the water temperature like as far as that goes?
Honestly, like, I was actually shocked for the first, because it's almost at 3 million views right now.
Wow.
The first million or so, it was a lot of people saying that they believe me and they've had there's a lot of similar experiences, which is crazy.
Similar, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot of people sending me their life stories right now, telling me what they saw, what their dad saw, what their brother saw. People trying to send me pictures of things, and I'm trying to talk to and relate with as many people as I can, because I feel like if this is something that's happening and people are going to look to me for answers or questions, I'm going to try to do my best to answer and solve any problems I can. But as far as that, it's all spiritual, and it's a lot. There's a lot. It's a lot. A lot of back and forth in my comments.
Yeah, I can imagine from, again, the mundane where you would be an observer on TikTok, then suddenly having the focus on you, massively on you. You obviously got a lot of things going on in your life. Then suddenly having this happen to you and all of that focus on TikTok. People also asking your advice on certain things. That's a lot of pressure, right?
Right. Yes, it is.
We will be right back after this message.
Watch this.
Please keep them kind.
Yeah,
Cheers.
it's a slick podcast and we keeping it real. We keeping it groovy. It's the food for your thoughts, so you know we
Please keep
ain't
them
losing.
kind.
We just trying to hit
Cheers.
the top. Every topic you choosing, simulate the mind frame. We just helping you use it. Feel
Please keep them
it's a
kind.
slick podcast. Thanks for tuning in, cause we're here to see the truth. Yeah, we doing it. Life in Scotland, around the UK. Question what do you say? No matter how bizarre, we answer it. Yeah, it's the new way. Slick podcast, come enjoy the show. Keep it real, keep it groovy. Always how we roll. This is passion. Slick podcast, this is passion.
Please keep them kind. Cheers.
Slick podcast. The Slick podcast. Yeah, it's a Slick podcast. Truly unforgettable topic. This is Slick podcast.
So, as far as you're concerned, then this seems to be becoming a thing now. Before we move on, the people on TikTok that are commenting, asking for advice or saying this happened, that happened. Has it suddenly opened another can of worms on something that you weren't aware of and actually are now becoming convinced that this is actually a thing?
Yeah, actually, in a way, when I first had it happen and I started posting it, I got a couple comments saying that maybe I'm becoming schizophrenic or something. And so I looked up my family history. I talked to my mother. I even went to a doctor and I wanted to confirm it. And they said that he doesn't see anything wrong with me. So whatever I experienced, I believe was spiritual. I think it wasn't a trick of the eye. It wasn't anything dealing with illness. It was real. And the experiences that I heard from other people, they described the same type of things. And I think it's going to become a big thing. I think it's becoming more of an issue because they're starting to, I don't know how to put this. The evil is pretty much like forcing itself to be revealed. And
that's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. I kind of touched on that before, Chip, when I said, you've got child trafficking, incessant wars. I've no doubt that what you saw was real. I've no doubt that demons walk amongst us, or maybe have a hand in this world, because as a species, we should be so much better than we are today. And I would just point out for my listeners that, again, you do have a lot going on in your life, and the last thing you need really is ridicule or focus on you personally, just a bit of good luck. But the last thing you need. So I would say to my listeners, why would this man come onto this show and go onto TikTok? And if you look at his video, if you look at Chip's video, he's clearly distressed, 100%. So why on earth would he do this to himself? Answer, he wouldn't. Sorry, Chip, over to you.
No, you're right. I wouldn't. This is the last thing I need. You're right. And I didn't ask for anybody. Like, I'm getting bashed a lot right now, which is fine. I'm just ignoring it. But I mean, yeah, I'm getting bashed left and right. I'm kind of nervous about walking into public right now because I'm getting a lot of messages going, well, you better watch your back. And it's like, why? Because I told you I saw something. Why can't you just trust your fellow man? And I guess I don't get it. Why there's so much hate?
Well, do you know, I have a site on Facebook, and it's called The Pagan Poet. Now, it doesn't mean pagan as in devil worshipper. It just means pagan as in somebody who lived in the countryside or a village. I live in the countryside. There is nothing on there that would be offensive. And I'm giving an example here, right? So I put a poem up called The Death of Common Sense. Okay. And that's all it is. It's a poem about the death of common sense. And it goes on to say that, you know, in this world, basically, like I said to you, we should be so much more as a species as we are. So it didn't go into racism. It didn't go into religion. It didn't go into any sort of prejudice. And Chip, can you believe the amount of haters that I got? Even reporting me to Facebook, and I'm thinking, hang on, what just happened here? This is just this. Why are people doing it? And I just think that people just get off on this, just causing other people misery. And I think that's maybe what you're experiencing as well. So you're just saying that you're clearly distressed on the video, and people are just attracted to that and think, well, let's make this guy's day a little bit worse. What do you have to say about that? Because that's my experience from, you know, in boxing, they call it a rope-a-dope. You know, you don't see it coming. You think, why would you say such a thing? Talk to me about that.
Oh, yeah, no, that's 100% true. Like, there's people that just seem to get joy off of making fun of somebody or picking at what they believe. And I'm seeing that 100% in my comments. And I'm trying my hardest I try to go into my comments and I try to ease it up a little bit, but there's some people that you just can't talk to them. I don't understand anything why they would do that to somebody, especially another person. But
yeah, right. They get off on that. They get off on that. They're almost like I would describe them as an energy vampire. So not like a Nosferatu. I mean, like an energy vampire. Somebody gets on, they see somebody who's miserable, so they just like to jump all over that, and they get some sort of kick out of it. And I can't relate to that. I've seen it, both up close and personal. But yeah, and it's just not nice. I can't really say too much more about it because I'm not that sort of person. Just like you, I wouldn't do that. So I don't understand the benefit to them personally for doing that.
Right.
So what are your hopes and aspirations for the future?
Right now I just want my kids and my wife into a safe place where I can go to work and not have to worry whether somebody's messing with them or this being homeless thing is rough. I'm having to pay for rooms every day out of my pocket and take advances out of my paychecks. My next 2 paychecks don't even exist. That's how much I've taken out for this hotel already. And it's rough. Really rough.
Yeah, I don't think on a personal level for myself, I don't think the society is in many ways people friendly. If we can send things into space, if that's an actual thing, this is not conspiracy theory. It's just an opinion of mine. If we can send satellites into space and rovers to other planets digging around the dirt, yet there are so many people like yourself, who are desperate. There are so many people that are just one paycheck away from absolute destitution. This is not fair. This is not the way society should be, right?
Right. No, I agree. People should be helping each other. We're all in this together, whether they like it or not, you know?
Absolutely. 100%. So, okay then, before we wrap up today's show, I sometimes throw some of my guests a curveball. If I could give you the keys to the kingdom and you had the ability to make a change, what would you do and why would you do it?
I think the first thing I would change is something to do with peace. And if we had world peace, if we were just nicer to each other, we would be fine. Like, there's so many people that are hateful for no reason. And we're all, whether they like it or not, we're all God's children. And we're all in this together, like I said before. And, you know, that's the first thing I would change is I would probably try to change something to do with making people happy, or getting people off the streets and like helping one another, like be kind, you know?
Are you coming across people that help you? I mean, good and decent people.
Yeah, I've come across a lot more good people than I have negative people, which is awesome. Actually, my friend that I texted, I met him because he actually helped me once. So we became friends, and we've been friends ever since. I've got a couple people on my TikTok that I will message and be like, hey, how are you doing? Are you doing okay? Is your family doing good? And they'll say the same thing to me. And if I need something, usually they help me. If I can do it back, I'll help also,
Yeah. So before we wrap up, do you have any last words for my audience where it concerns your encounter, maybe what they should do if they've had the same experience, if you want them to reach out to you, or maybe how to defend themselves, or to some self-affirmations that I saw what I saw. I'm not going to try and examine it. I saw what I saw. What would you say? What would your last words be really on this subject?
I would have to say that if you come across what I came across, yeah, it's scary, but if you have faith in God, I do not believe that he can harm you or they can harm you. I was scared, but now that I'm looking back at it, I'm not as scared now that I've kind of taken it all in, and I dug out my cross that I haven't worn in a while. It's got the Lord's Prayer on it. That's coming with me. If anybody wants to reach out to me, I'm always available to talk. I'll make time. So.
That's really good. And finally, do you think this will? It's obviously a thing that it's on the rise. I mean, from first seeing your video delving into this, it is becoming a thing in one way or another. Do you think that it is?
I honestly do. With all the comments I've been reading and all the people commenting and telling me their stories and sending me their pictures, and it's becoming more real. And also I'm seeing more and more of it as time goes on, and it's going pretty quick. I don't know if it had something to do with that eclipse thing, but ever since that eclipse happened, I've been looking at things differently. Like the clouds shape weird. They're giving me weird vibes. There's a lot going on, and I believe it's going to continue, and I think it's going to get stronger, and people are going to start seeing stuff for themselves, and they're not going to be able to hide anymore.
There was a lot of weird things about that eclipse that I saw. There was one of the things. Did you see that one where something was flying through the clouds? Did you see that one there? Or the weird 3D shadows? Just a lot of weird stuff to do with that particular. Well, in fact, just before we do wrap up, how close before or after was your experience with the eclipse?
To be honest, I didn't actually see the eclipse. I was working, and it was cloudy. There was no breaks in the cloud. I didn't even see a difference in the lighting, so I didn't even know the eclipse happened, but it did.
So what was it? Was it that day of the eclipse that happened?
No. What happened to me was last Thursday. I'm trying to remember the date on that, but no, it wasn't the eclipse. No, not for that.
Okay. Well, that's us at the top of the hour, and I really appreciate your time today. Before we conclude, where can my listeners reach out to you, and can they help you in any way?
I mean, yeah, if anybody wants to help me, that'd be great. They can find me by just looking up my name. I'm under Chip Drachenfels on TikTok. I have all my stuff listed in my bio. I have a PayPal, I have Cash App, Venmo. It's all on there.
Chip, I'd really like to thank you for your time today, and I sincerely wish you all you wish yourself, and I hope that you get yourself to where yourself and your family need to be. Sincerely, I really do. So with that, Chip, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show too. So,
well, you're very welcome, and I appreciate your time. You take care of yourself.
You also.
And that was the Demon Encounter interview with Chip Drachenfels. A short interview, yes, But when I had this video sent to me, as I said in the intro, I felt I just had to take a further look into it. So then, Chip informed me that he'd been sent a document by his friend that pertained to people getting a particular type of syndrome that would make them see demon faces. So, after our interview, I looked online searching for such a disorder, and it was surprisingly easy to find. I did think to myself that I should have asked Chip for the document he was made aware of, but as it turned out, as stated, it was relatively easy to find. The search result gave me something that is almost impossible for me personally to pronounce, but thanks to the power of editing, it's called
prosopometamorphopsia.
Yup, that is certainly unpronounceable to myself, as I've tried to get my tongue around it and end up sounding like I'm attempting to speak medieval Dutch for the first time. No offence, people who speak Dutch. So then, here is the generic description put out 6 years ago that I'd found online this morning when I was searching. So I'll play the sound clip of the AI giving us the definition of this disorder, and we will take it from there.
Prosopometamorphopsia is a rare visual perceptual distortion resulting in an altered perception of faces. It is distinct from prosopagnosia, which is characterized by the inability to recognize faces, and is relatively more common. Background: Prosopometamorphopsia is considered a face hallucination and is included under the umbrella of complex visual hallucinations. Unlike other forms of hallucinations such as peduncular hallucinosis or Charles Bonnet syndrome, prosopometamorphopsia does not predominate at a particular time of day, it is a constant experience. However, patients with Charles Bonnet syndrome have noted descriptions of prosopometamorphopsia. This form of perceptual distortion, along with others such as macropsia and micropsia, alteration of perceived object size, and palinopia, spatial and temporal varieties, and polyopia, are classified under the category termed metamorphopsia. These facial distortions can occur to either hallucinated perceptions or true, non-hallucinated, perceptions. It is attributed to structural brain changes or functional disorders like epilepsy, migraine, or eye diseases. Characteristics: generally, faces tend to appear distorted to a person who is affected by this condition. Those who suffer from this condition are able to recognize faces normally but perceive them as strangely disfigured. These facial hallucinations are usually described as ugly.
Well, in a nutshell then, it seems that to suffer from this particular very rare disorder, you would have to be a particular type of epileptic, or have a particular type of seizure, or have had some sort of brain trauma, etc. Now that is what I'm understanding of this condition. It can't be caught from another person or yourself infected by a sweeping wave of
prosopometamorphopsia
that just happens to be rife in our country right now. Have people had
prosopometamorphopsia?
Yes, absolutely. I read that some small number of military veterans have lost the ability to recognise faces due to a similar syndrome, not wholly unrelated, to my understanding that is. So it is definitely a thing, and I need not investigate that any further, because if it wasn't and I hadn't found that particular easily found article, then it would have been a very hard slog if I was trying to find some random video on YouTube or a blog talking about such a syndrome, then going to the trouble of cross-checking that information to ascertain the facts as best I could. But no, it really is a thing, a very rare thing. Indeed, according to one article I read, only 75 cases have been scientifically observed. 75! Oh, and here's another important point to take into consideration. Chip mentioned that he'd had or has ADHD. There is no link with
prosopometamorphopsia.
None whatsoever. So what's my point? My point is this. I have seen a few videos of black-eyed adults and people that have reported they've seen demons, and also read and seen videos about the phenomena of black-eyed children, which in itself is a whole other show. But they are online, and can they be authenticated as to the validity? Simple answer is no. But I'm going by my gut feeling on them, and they are pretty convincing. Please understand that just because it's on the internet, I'm not going to believe it without using some sort of logic, or as stated, going with my gut. Again, as I stated in my conversation with Chip, I wouldn't be surprised if you'd actually encountered the demon, judging by the state of the world lately. Crimes against children are on the up. War seems to be very much in vogue at the moment. And let's not forget the whole UAP thing, the rebranded UFOs, that the United States' own Congress had a major Q&A session about not that long ago. Yes, my friends, I certainly would not dismiss such a possibility of such a thing happening without feeling like I'm a religious zealot or becoming labelled as a crazy person. So, if there is a rise in this occurrence, remembering that is extremely rare. There can't be an epidemic of it. If this continues to become a thing, then that only leaves... Yeah, exactly. So then, I think that covers that. But I am going to mention homelessness. Reason one is to highlight Chip's awful situation that his family and himself find themselves in currently, and the many thousands of others across the world. And if you could lend Chip and his family a helping hand, that would be greatly appreciated, as have I already. You can find his PayPal link in the show notes below. But whilst we are on the subject, according to semi-sentient, as I suspect, Google, there are, from figures back in 2023, some 65,000 homeless people in America. Now, that may be a gross exaggeration, or it may be a lot more. Is that the same thing I just said? Moving on. And 13,000 people in Britain. But when I looked at Africa and India, those figures are staggering. Here's an article from Wikipedia. Again, I can only go by what I'm reading. I don't know if these figures are accurate. And I quote, "It is estimated that 140 million people are homeless worldwide. According to Habitat for Humanity, which I believe are based here in Britain, estimate that in 2024, 1.53 billion people around the world live in inadequate shelter. Nigeria and India are the two countries with the most homeless population. Nigeria ranked first with 25 million homeless people, and India takes second place with 18 million homeless people as of 2024. End quote. My point is this. I personally think before working on ways to explore the universe, both at a macro spaceship level or on a micro quantum level, we should try and achieve the hardest problems that we face to rid the world of homelessness, poverty, needless suffering and war. Now that would truly be the greatest achievement of peoplekind, without exception. This would be something history could and would resound forevermore. If this monumental task could be achieved, then it would be a thing that could truly change humanity for the greater good and propel us as a species into space meaningfully and with all good intent and the right and justified reasons. As a side note, all those countries mentioned have wealth, and 3 of them have a space program also. Just saying. So then, I'd like to thank Chip for joining us here today and for the time he gave us, and taking into account the guy and his family are walking a very thin line between extreme difficulty and absolute destitution at the moment. No, really, Chip is doing his best, and for him to raise such concerns about what he saw when he has so much other things going on, I think it lends credibility to his account, in my book. What say you? As stated, if you feel you could help Chip in any way, reach out to him on TikTok or click on his PayPal link, or just send some positive thoughts and good wishes for his family and himself, and I know he'd greatly appreciate that. Okay then, let's wrap up. And so thanks also to you, my dear listeners, of course, for attending this cast. And if you enjoyed the show, give it a like and subscribe also if you be so kind. Leave a comment below or send the show an email, theslkpodcast@gmail.com. But either way, please keep them kind. You can find the Simon Laurie King podcast on Apple, Buzzsprout, Universum, Spreaker, and the usual podcasting platforms. And not forgetting, of course, our website, thesokpodcast.com, which, by the way, needs badly updating. But show quality first, website when I can get around to it. And so, my friends, it's time for me to go. Until next time, stay safe, be happy, and certainly not afraid. Bye.
Slick Podcast. Keeping it real and always keeping it groovy.